Alternative for Deutschland, or AfD. I haven't heard about this group either, and yet been grown up in a world dominated by hatred towards others, and constant extremist narratives. AfD, a far-right group becoming popular in Germany and stirring hatred towards refugees. Extremism is a problem, fueled by the media and a lack of understanding. Our schools, our community, our minds are being manipulated by what the media wants us to believe. Can anyone in this room confidently say they have never judged a woman in a headscarf or young boys in hoodies? Negative stereotyped images bombard us every day. And my concern is, young people are so open to what they see. The Muslim community see how their culture is being unfairly portrayed against. I searched the word extremist online and found it showed far more images of dark-faced males that conform to a religious stereotype. It was biased towards religious extremism. Where were the political extremists? Extremist ideology can come from anywhere by anyone. A young person searching for this definition may believe to be an extremist you have to be a Muslim. And the government shouldn't be shoving British value down our throats. And if you search government documents regarding extremism, the same messages appear. ISIS, Muslims. Teach us about these issues, and that anger can lead to resentment, whoever you are, and whatever religion you are. Nikki Morgan, I urge you to examine the curriculum alongside panels of young people. We must educate young people, work as a community, to ensure hatred can be tackled better and see British values in action.
Ban Muslims. That is Donald Trump's aim. In the past several months, Trump has called Mexican immigrants rapists and bragged about building a wall. 3 months ago, he suggested a compulsory Muslim registry. How would you feel if that happened to you? Then he called for a total and complete ban on all Muslims entering the United States. This man reminds me of someone. I wonder who that was. Adolf Hitler. Words matter, proposals matter. This man is ahead in every national poll. People are flocking to attend his events. The media continue to give airtime to his antics. He is sweeping away with the election and is on the verge of becoming leader of the Republicans. Just 2 days ago, he publicly supported the idea of waterboarding. To make matters even worse, the leader of the Ku Klux Klan supports him. Why? Enough is enough. He is on the verge of becoming candidate for the Republicans. If elected president, Donald Trump has the power to enact policy by executive action to round up people of a specific race or religion and take independent action against them. If elected president, Donald Trump really can spend people's taxpayer dollars to build walls, tear families apart, and deny federal benefits and protections to people of a specific race or religion. How would you feel if you were being persecuted due to your race or religion? Imagine this. The world's 3 powerhouses leaders be called Putin, Johnson, and Trump. We must stand together and stop this fascist man's charged power. Thank you.
Islamic State, IS, words we hear often. They've developed a big fear in the minds of people all around the world. Just look at what happened in Brussels on Tuesday. But there is still hope. In Riyadh, a coalition of 34 countries have agreed to establish a joint operations centre. Countries from Africa to the Arab nations are taking part in this collaboration. Prince Mohammed said, "Currently, every Muslim country is fighting terrorism individually, so coordinating efforts is very important." He also added that this collaboration was not only to stop ISIS, but stopping terrorism in general. This sums up my feelings about all terrorism is not a Muslim problem. The stabbing last year in London prompted a passerby to say, "You ain't no Muslim, bruv." One person on Twitter said that the passerby had summed up the last 10 years in one sentence. This proves the fact that we should not blame Muslims for all terrorism. Many atrocities have been committed by other terrorist groups. I agree with the hashtag terrorism has no religion, because no religion allows and advocates killing people, so it is a way of breaking your religion rules, and therefore you have no religion except for terrorism. IS invite children to watch executions, wield weapons, and eventually kill people themselves. I believe that young people should not find IS appealing, because their job is killing people, ending humanity, and raping women. As well as that, IS have captured hundreds of Yazidi women and are gang raping them. It is time we stop ISIS or the world will be ruled by a terrorist group in the name of Islam. This sums up my point about terrorism and why the coalition of 34 countries is something we need to encourage. Thank you for listening.
In the
the summer of 2015, Europe experienced the highest number of refugees since the Second World War, the main reason being the events in Syria. Syria today has become the top source of refugees. I, like many others, stand by the Syrian people when I say this oppression needs to be stopped. Veiled by the disciplinary rules, the Syrian people were just a mortal workforce, but now they're undressed of their rights as humans and stewards of this earth. The Arab Spring of 2011 was a revolution for the people, as they toppled many authoritarian regimes, but their significance on this planet is viewed as feeble. The Assad refused to step down and started a brutal civil war in which different ethnicities and religious groups fought each other in changing coalitions, which led to the virus-like militant jihadist groups to infect and infest in what was before a country in the Middle East, while children ran freely without ducking and diving from bombs and missiles being dropped and launched from within and from the West. The goal to build a totalitarian Islamic caliphate opposes the morals, ideals and teachings of the religion of peace, where millions make a pilgrimage once a year in prayer and stand feet to feet, shoulder to shoulder in unity. 95% of these refugees are being taken care of in neighbouring countries, and it is my belief that the whole world could do more. Most of these refugees already are educated, and the fear that refugees lead to higher crime rates should be faced and eradicated because it's a disgrace that the homes they fled to for solace are being set ablaze. They've travelled on boats on seas when in reality they can restore our faith in humanity. Most of the support has come from us citizens and not politicians as a cry for help as a chance heard. All A-Line Kylie was pleading for was help, and only silence answered. Thank you.
The United Kingdom, should it be in the EU? Should it be out the EU? This is what I'm here to talk about today. Why do I think that the UK should stay in the EU? Because I believe that leaving the EU is a terrible idea that will impact the future of thousands of young people already struggling in today's economic climate. I believe if we truly want to change this world, we must do it together as a community. Some citizens of the UK in this day and age make fallacious claims that staying in the EU drags down the country and that the EU's immigrants negatively impact Britain's economy. They say the EU needs the UK more than the UK needs the EU. But the truth is, we need them just as much as they need us. A testament to this fact is that in November 2015, according to HM Revenues, the UK's total value of exports were £25.3 billion, and the total value of imports were £35 billion worth of goods. Of those goods and services, the EU accounted for 43% of exports and 53% of imports. On top of this, being part of the EU allowed 10,852 UK students to become working, educated professionals. Another perk of being part of the EU is that we can receive emergency healthcare when visiting any other member state. This is clearly needed, as in 2008, 50 million UK citizens visited the EU. My last point is that being part of the EU is an integral part of keeping the United Kingdom in one of the most successful peacekeeping initiatives that has kept another world war from breaking out for 71 years. So should you really leave the EU? I leave that question to you.
Great Britain, arguably one of the most advanced countries in the world. Whilst there may be many reasons for this greatness, one aspect that clearly distinguishes our country from others is our remarkable democratic system. We all know that democracy is not just for a select few, but that it affects every single one of us, including young people. Yet why is it that almost 1.5 million 16 to 17-year-olds are not eligible to vote? Some quarters make bizarre claims that we are still immature and childish. Yet at this age, we are making life-changing decisions and we are contributing greatly to society. However, our voices are not being heard on key decisions that will impact the future of this country. Members of the audience, is this not a great injustice? How could it be that we are deemed old enough to gamble, have a relationship, become a parent, fight for our country and contribute to the treasury, but not old enough to have a say at the ballot box, nor decide who makes the policies that so greatly affects our lives? Surely the voting age should be lowered so that young people are able to hold those in power to account. I end on the words as recently remonstrated by a youth parliament member in the House of Commons. Democracy is a beautiful thing. We want a piece of it.
Are you always driving your car?
Did you know that in 2014, 194,477 people died in major road accidents? You may think that petrol is cheap now as it's only under 60p, but do you know that this is slowly destroying Earth? Yes, this may now be a cause of global warming and climate exchange. This doesn't just affect me or you, but every single person that lives today. I have come here today to discuss about a very important issue, and that is to stop people from driving cars when not necessary. I'm sure you all know, in the morning, drivers, whether they're dropping their child off to school or going to work, they ignorantly drive and they don't care about anyone or anything. Children are crossing busy junctions carelessly. It's chaos everywhere. Let's take my example. In the morning, when I ride my bike, I don't just worry about the way I drive. I have to be extra precautious for the selfish drivers. What the government should do to resolve this problem is create more cycle lanes like they have done in Cambridge. This will slowly and hopefully make more people ride their bikes. Also, they should make all public transports cheaper, because at this moment in time, trains, taxis, buses, whatever, they are really expensive and nobody wants to drive them. Also, parents park on yellow lines on risky places. This is a serious problem. Thank you for listening to my speech.
Do you want the children of this country to have the best possible future? I stand here today to plead for the government to re-evaluate its current national curriculum. Now, you may be thinking academic education, maths, English, or science are the most important sectors in school. Now, this may be true, but there is a downside for the government to sticking so strictly to just academics. Studies show that the more people who think the same means we see less individual people, thus less individual ideas which are critical to developing Britain's future. And this great country, which is developed faster than any other in the world, deserves to look to that future. Are you going to allow your child to be forced into a course which they may fail at? Are you going to allow all the hard work you put to benefit our generation to go to waste? We have come so far, from Celtic tribes to a nation with a population from all over the world. Did we unify cultures from everywhere to create a kingdom? No, we did it to create a democracy. In secondary school, we should be allowed to take courses which appeal to us not as averages, but as individuals. And it will only be when and only then we progress further as a person, will we be able to progress further as a nation. Are you willing to make that change? Thank you for your time.
Are we not the same as everyone else? Friends, teachers and policemen, lend me your ears. I want to quote you a few things from the current media. Daily Mail headline reads, Muslim schoolboy 10 quizzed by the police after writing, I live in a terrorist house, when he went, terrorist. The question I pose to you is, do you think this is worthy of headline news? If so, why? Was it the fact that this boy may have been brainwashed into a house of would-be terrorists? Or is it that he was simply a 10-year-old boy who happened to make an honest mistake, but because of his identity, has now been vilified for his innocent actions? I bring and pose these questions to you because I too am a child who is only 13 years old, and I too am prone to making spelling mistakes, and I too follow the religion of Islam. After this hard and worrying investigation, the boy was too worried to write words on paper. He was afraid. Is this really what a 10-year-old boy should be worrying about? We are always taught to express ourselves, form our opinions and put them across, so we can contribute to make positive to society. If we vilify young Muslim children such as this, who is now too scared to write anything down, let alone form an opinion, what impression do you think it gives to Muslim children across the country? I've been quite upset by it. Just recently, one of the American presidential frontrunners, Donald Trump, made a bold and disturbing statement. Headline of the Telegraph, Donald Trump and Muslims, they're not coming to this country if I'm president. Why does my religious belief determine whether I can ever visit such a liberty? Or indeed, will I ever get to take my children to Disneyland in Florida? Am I not the same as everyone else? I have a personality and I enjoy many things the world has to offer. Why does being a Muslim restrict that? Maybe the pen is mightier than sword, as long as it wears it.
This is one of the most important topics in politics at the moment. Whatever decision is made will affect you all. The Remain campaign says there will be a job boom if we leave the EU. The Remain campaign says there will be millions of job losses if we chose to leave. I disagree. There would actually be a job boom if we leave, because firms who don't trade with the European Union will have freedom to create jobs. All in all, if we left, the economy would adapt incredibly quickly. The economy would not fall if we chose to leave at all. The Remain campaign claim that the EU is good because there is greater movement of people from country to country. However, I feel that we should have greater control over people. Britain can regain border control if we leave the EU. This would create more job opportunities for workers around Britain. I agree with the UKIP plans for a work permit system, which will place equal restrictions on everyone, and this would significantly decrease migration. The Remain campaign argues that our influence on world affairs would dramatically change if we left. They say we would be shunned by the rest of the continent, and our country would become isolated and in danger. We would also have less influence on issues such as trade and security. However, we will still be a key part of NATO and have a say in our own right.
That's time, I'm afraid.
Hi, my name is Eunice, and I'm going to be talking about immigration. What is immigration? According to the Oxford Dictionary, it is the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. According to the UK law, it states those who have the right of abode in the UK. Out of all the disadvantages and advantages possible, I have picked out 3. Advantages. Failing schools and those with failing numbers can be transformed. Job vacancies and skill gaps can be filled. The pension gap can be filled by the contributions of new young workers, and they also pay taxes. Disadvantages. Increases in population can pressurize public services. Ease of movement may facilitate organized crime, and migrants may be exploited. In conclusion, I think we should limit the amount of immigrants that enter the UK, because many countries have been affected badly by opening their doors for immigrants to enter freely. UK, as a small country with a big influence, might have a chance of falling into the same trap if not dealt with. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We all know that sugar causes tooth decay. It also leads to obesity, a major cause of preventable illnesses. We need to address this problem, but is the recently announced sugar tax on fizzy drinks the solution? In Mexico, a 10% sugar tax did reduce consumption, but when the French added 2p to the price of each can, sales rose again after an initial fall. We shoppers are clearly willing to pay extra for the things we crave. Mr. Osborne claims his tax will help reduce obesity. Really? Mexico's tax on sugary drinks reduced the daily intake by 6 calories, hardly enough to help a cat lose weight. If Mr. Osborne seriously wished to tackle obesity, he would target hidden sugars in all drinks and all convenience foods. But Mr. Osborne is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. His apparent concern is a smokescreen. The sugar tax, demanded by doctors and allegedly popular, is not about making us healthier. It's about making the Treasury wealthier, and even that's unlikely. Thank you.
Brexit is an issue that's been in the news a lot recently, and mostly because of every politician's different views, each time saying something completely different from each other.
I'm going to take a balanced look at the EU and decide whether we should stay in or not. I think it's like a leap into the dark, and I'm going to examine why I believe that this issue isn't one that we can just say yes or no immediately to. Firstly, consumer regulations within the EU are enforced quite strictly and impact on lives quite a lot. It can affect the price we pay for goods and any safety and assurances on our products. This can surely fall two ways. Maybe some people don't want to pay more, but maybe some people would prefer this added bonus. As a result, people are torn between whether they want to stay in or not. And when these politicians talk about whether they stay in or not for it, it's exactly what we need, another air of uncertainty. It's entirely worth looking at businesses as well. Firstly, we hear every day about how leaving is going to increase the number of job opportunities. But hold on, then we hear it's going to decrease the number of job opportunities. And the next day we'll hear the exact same thing again, both of them. Even studies into the EU will give us different facts that on which we can never be certain about.
That's time, I'm afraid.
Hello, my name is Victoria Malone and I'm going to be talking about the Syrian refugee crisis. Did you know the United Nations has predicted that there will be 4.7 million refugees by the end of 2016? This is the equivalent of Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutlands times by 3. The refugees live in shanty towns, get diseases, but most importantly, they are unsafe. We are all concerned about their plight, but what can be done? I believe that the countries around Syria, together with member states of the United Nations, should absorb the most vulnerable people. We should provide them with food, water and clothes. For families with children, some toys. Remember, they left with nothing. They would then have a safe place to live. They would not have to worry about providing for their families. Their children would start to lead a normal life. This would be a step towards them feeling as though they were part of society, with their basic needs being met. Those who could would be able to get a permanent place. There is no need for us to start another war in the Middle East. There is little that Britain can do on its own. But if we worked with the other countries, we can have a greater impact. We could and should do more to try and help the Syrian refugees in more practical ways. We should not be trying to make Syria peaceful through bombing it. We should make Syrians feel more protected in the countries that can give them shelter. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Georgia, and today I'm going to talk about success at age 7 and why we shouldn't start school at age 4. In October 2015, the BBC reported the PISA study test results. England came 23rd in reading and 26th in maths. In science, the UK used to be 16th but slipped to 21st position. Let's ask ourselves why. Three of the top performing countries, Estonia, Finland and Poland, all start school at 7. Finland are one of the countries at the bottom of the table in terms of hours spent in the classroom, but still teams top the British students. Children in the UK should start school at age 7 as it lets children explore their childhood while learning. You may be wondering, doesn't starting school earlier save parents time and money? In the UK alone, parents with 2 children can pay up to £11,700 a year for childcare. The only other country that is more expensive is Switzerland. We always blame the students for their poor results our country produces, but shouldn't we be blaming the government for forcing kids too early to go to school and miss out on their childhood? Several children across the UK are being overloaded with homework, while children in other countries are having fun just being children. Do you think that's fair? Missing out on other interests like languages, sports and arts, which can lead to future careers and opportunities. Our country has been stereotypically looked at as having a poor work ethic, but some students leave schools with full A stars. I say let children be children and stop taking their childhood away from them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alexi and I'm debating if school is to be shorter in the UK. Here are a few reasons why. I argue if school is to be shorter so we can spend more time with our family and friends. When school days are longer, it can cause a lack of friendship and childhood experiences. Even though South Korea is a top-performing school, they have the highest suicide rates in the world for teens under 18-year-olds because they are starting school from 8 till 7:30 every day. This causes more homework and a lot of stress as well. They get overloaded with homework and it gets to a serious point where they feel as if they can't carry on anymore. That is when they commit suicide and want to end their life. It also stops kids from being kids and puts a stop in our life. We still go to school, of course, but just for 3 hours every day. Different schools in America only work at school every day for 4 hours, and their exam results are just as good as ours, so why do we have to have such a long day? I think that in the UK, we should get that freedom to be ourselves and not continuously think about homework and schooling. Let kids be kids and let them work for less amount of time. Children should do 1 hour at home of schoolwork and then get the rest of the day to play and explore. They will also go to school but for a shorter amount of time. It will also help the teachers and staff so they have more time to mark exams and plan fun lessons for the next time they teach us. I think that is a much better way to enjoy school and have more time at home with family and friends. I think that we all need to work together and try hard to get this opportunity and worry less about school and homework and enjoy life to the fullest. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Upon the creation of the first atom bomb, a scientist turned to Father and said, "Science is now known sin." And you know what Father said? What is sin? I would define sin as the mutually assured destruction of our species. Ever since mankind has had the ability to destroy itself, we've been faced with the question, what next? Jeremy Corbyn has recently been arguing that the Trident missile programme is useless and is still not a big enough threat to deter a nuclear war. He is called a madman by right-wing politicians who have preached to me and my fellow students that missiles are the only way to remain safe. This was stated by Alberto Costa at Mike Alstott College. For too long, our forefathers have dwelled idly on nuclear stockpiles that have threatened to destroy the world in which their children would live. And I say it's about time that changed. Do we have to live in a world where the only way we can protect ourselves is to threaten the destruction of us both? Is it not enough for us to have the capability to build a nuclear weapon, enough of a threat to deter our enemies? Frankly, yes, it is. Ever since the destruction of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, Japan has vowed to never build a nuclear weapon unless it became necessary. Japan has been able to build a nuclear weapon since Nagasaki was destroyed. Also, statistics from CND show that the government is wasting £100 billion a year on nuclear weapons. That is enough to fund the NHS and solve its financial problems for 40 years. So ask yourself, do we continue to live in a society where our only security fail-safe is complete destruction, or do we choose to take a step towards a future where we can be truly safe and fund the institutions that matter? Thank you for listening.
The government claims to be helping those affected by mental health, but this £1 billion of funding provided by our Prime Minister cannot undo this disastrous situation. It's taken far too long for anyone from our government to even try. The 8% of funding cuts have left thousands of teenagers, children and adults waiting to be seen. The average waiting time for those referred to CAMS is about 12 weeks, and when they go, they get told they don't fit a criteria to be there and get no help at all. These cuts have also left over 10,000 sexual assault victims waiting over a year on average to have counselling. During these times, these people could end up dead, self-harming or institutionalised. As well as this, the Fit to Work tests have coincided with 540 suicides, adding to the already substantial amount, 279,000 cases of mental illness and 725,000 more prescriptions for antidepressants, all in the past 5 years. The blame is on the fact that, despite accounting for over a fifth of the UK's disease burden, mental health only gets 13% of NHS funding. Last year alone, CAMS was also cut by 35 million, and, to bridge this gap, over 11 billion of funding is required, but the government won't pay that amount, especially since the choice of cutting mental health by a further 12 billion in the next few years is being considered. Because of these cuts, by October 2015, over a fifth of children and young people that referred to CAMS were refused treatment. This was in England alone. These children and young people are our new generation, and their mental health's fate lies in your hands.
The United Kingdom prides itself as being seen as, we like to think, one of the most civilised and tolerant countries in the world. Our traditions of democracy, freedom and justice are regarded as a model to all. But are we as intolerant as we really believe? I feel not. Britain's deserved reputation as a free, fair and tolerant society has always provided an added attraction to citizens less fortunate than ourselves. As things go, an aspect that has repeatedly enraged me recently is how politicians, especially the press, have reacted to the recent refugee crisis in and around Europe by demonising those attempting to flee war and poverty. Is Mr Cameron using emotive words such as swarmed and pests in response to UKIP's growing popularity, or does he extensively mean it? It's incredibly easy to claim that no immigrants will take jobs from indigenous people and take advantage of our social welfare provisions by claiming benefits without the urge to work. The simple fact is this: without immigration in this country in which 70 million people live, we simply wouldn't have an NHS we could all depend upon. As it stands, 11% of the total NHS workforce are immigrants, the proportionate amount to 143,000 individuals. So if we really want to consider ourselves as tolerant and civilised, we must condemn the climate of fear in which the media and our country's politicians report these vulnerable refugees and immigrants. It's time to wake up, people. It's time to act. Thank you.